Hi, you're here again with Ordinath for the second episode of Let's Play Skyhaven. So today we're going to dip into passenger services. In episode 1 we set up a thriving cargo service, having upgraded our air cargo and fuel barrels. Our small airport is flourishing with cargo planes coming and going and being serviced efficiently. In this episode, we'll introduce passenger flights to our airport and set up flexible contracts so that we can make the most money with routine deliveries. We'll also introduce a range of ramp services so that we can maximise the profit we make from our passenger flights. So, as you'll recall, last time we left ourselves here with our cargo setup and our fuel setup ready to go. There's one more thing we need to do before we get into running this at a most profitable level, and that is we need to make use of our flexible contracts. So if you look here in the cargo management under supply management, you'll see that there's a graph here that tells you, based on the schedule that you've made, how much cargo you will end up using. So as you can see here, we're going to use around 170 every day, and we've already started with 138. So if we go into the new contracts and have a look at the different contracts we've got, you'll see we can have these regular contracts. And you'll see that previously, to get 50, we were spending $700 for 50 cargo. And if you have a look at our regular contract, for 50, we're only spending 140 if we can get it delivered routinely, whether we use it or not. So even though you might get some wastage, this is really efficient and one of the important parts of making good money out of your cargo, and later on with regards to passenger planes with refueling and those sorts of things. So I'm going to go now and set it up so that we get 2 deliveries at $420 each, and we've got to decide when we want these deliveries to come. So I think it would be really good if we could have one first thing in the morning before we start, so that we've got cargo ready to go, and then once during the day when we're about halfway through. So we'll set that up now, so we'll put in that 6 o'clock delivery. Now what you'll notice here is the graph's changed up above. So we've got our delivery that happens and we get 150 cargo, and then it ekes out over the day, and you can actually see here when it's going to run out. So you can see we're going to run out of cargo at around 1600 or 4 p.m. in the afternoon. But because I know that we're going to sort of steadily expand, what I'm going to do is set up a second one for 150, because whether you order 150 or 50, you might save a tiny bit of money, but it costs you the same in workflow, which is the real cost of setting up these. So we're going to set up another one for 12 o'clock so that we get another top up at 12 o'clock in the middle of the day. So we'll go ahead and sign that one. And now we should do the same with the fuel management. So if we have a look at our fuel management, again under this supply management button, unfortunately it comes up normally with this screen first, but if you look under supply management, you can see how much fuel we're intending on going through in a day. So again, it looks like we need probably 2 fill-ups, because we're using more like 13,000 a day. So I'll set it up so that we get a full 10,000 in the morning. Now, if we have a look here, under here there's flexible, and there's also take or pay, which is slightly different, but the flexible contract is what we're going to set up, and we'll go with the $1,800 per 10,000, which is a little bit cheaper than what we were doing before. You'll remember when we were trying to instantly deliver, for 5,000 you were paying 2,100, and now for 10,000 we're paying 1,800, so much more efficient. And again, it would be good to get that to come around the same time, so we'll get that one to come at 6 o'clock in the morning. Ready to go, and we'll sign that one now. And you'll see again the graph's changed, and it looks like we'll run out again sort of around that 1500 1600 mark, but again we'll put one in the middle of the day to make sure that we don't run out. So we'll put in a second contract for 12 o'clock. You'll notice that the delivery times you can do in 15-minute increments here, which is a bit handy for the fuel. So we'll sign that, and now you can see we have our supply chain set up for our fuel and for our cargo. So what we'll do now is I'll just talk quickly about the research I'm going to do. So today we're going to be focusing on passenger services. So to get our passenger services going under the passenger services tab, first thing we really need to do is build the base hospitality, and after that I will get the ramp services going. So we'll get the ramp services, and we might even try and get the upgraded truck, and then we can work through sky caps and extended porter shifts, which both increase the speed at which you service passengers and service luggage to planes. And we'll do the kerosene lamps, which improves our ramp services. So I won't stop all the time to go through the research until we've completed those. And let's move forward. Right, so now we've hit 6 o'clock in the morning. Our trucks have come along and done their routine delivery for 6 a.m. and at 7 a.m. our schedule will start. So if you recall, we had this quite heavy cargo schedule. One thing I didn't mention yesterday is you get this little cycle count number here, so you can see how many are left in each slot. So we have hit the evening, having had a successful day of delivering cargo and made quite a bit of money. Briefly on the research front, we have completed base hospitality and aero snacks. We've completed the ramp services and the DMG-10 ramp service truck. And we've started doing our sky caps research, so improving our personnel. So to generate passengers, we have to have the passenger facilities in place. So we need to do a little bit of building. So similar to doing the air cargo and the fuel, we need to put in a ramp service, an aero meals facility, and we also need to put in the early days airport station for the passengers and their luggage. So we will start with the early days airport station for the passengers, and we will squeeze this in over here, like so, and connect that up with its grass road. And then we want to put in our ramp services. Now I might just extend this road off up this way to make it a little bit easier for us. And we'll put in our ramp service perhaps here. And we need our aero meals facility, which we might just put over this side, like so. Now, similar to when we did the large fuel barrel stock and the air cargo warehouse, all of these need different vehicles. So with our airport station, we need 2 vehicles. One is to take baggage and the other one is to take passengers. So for the baggage vehicle, we've already researched the DMG-10, which has 20 luggage spaces, so we'll take that. And then for the bus, we only have one. We have the right omnibus, so we will take that one, and it has room for 10 people. So we've now set those up. You've got to remember still to link it to the available ramps. So again, you've got this handy link to all available ramps, but don't forget to do that, otherwise your airport station won't do anything for you. Then with the aero meals and the ramp service, we also need to link all of them, and we need to buy a vehicle. Now we've already researched the Packard D1, which just services just services a little bit faster, or runs a little bit faster, so we'll get our hands on that one. And then with the aero meal service, we need to buy a catering vehicle. So it's a ZU 550, and it has room for 30 of the meals cargo, so we will buy that one. Alright, so now we've got that set up, we can fast forward to 12 midnight and we should be able to get some contracts. So if you have a look how we went on the previous day, you'll see that we spent around about 8,500 which is in terms of capital cost, so in terms of cash flow, a little bit better than neutral. So not too bad, not too bad. Definitely helped by having those routine contracts, which are a fair bit cheaper. So now if we have a look, we will have some new contracts. So if we look under the airlines tab, you'll see that we've got a couple more airlines turned up. We've got another domestic and another international. So as I said before, there doesn't seem to be any penalty for having as many of these as you wish. So we'll sign both of those up and have a look at the contracts. Now, as you can see here in the contracts page, it's starting to get a little bit busy. So what you can do is just click up the top here on the average income twice, and that will sort it in descending order. And we can see which are the most lucrative contracts that we have. So most of those are for Sabina. So we will want to go and sign and set those up now. However, if you have a look in our schedules window, we really don't have any more slots, even though we've got more available time slots up the top. Most of these still have 5 or 6 cycles to run, so we've got to keep servicing those. So what we really need to do is build some more ramps. So to make an efficient ramp setup, we could try and keep building along here, but that's a very long way away from our services and centre. So what I'm actually going to do is we'll use this middle road as the exit road, and we'll create a taxiway around the outside here so that we can feed our airplanes into the centre. So we'll just go ahead and do that now. So we'll grab some more grass ramps, remembering that the aircraft feed from the long side. So if we turn it around that way and we place 5 of those like this, and then we can get our taxiway. And you'll notice here that we've got our taxiway to here. How do we get it around this side? Well, you can't cross across the roads, otherwise it won't let you, but it will let you go to the road and make an intersection, and then you can line it up and come around the back here. And we don't need to extend it beyond the end because they're going to use this center road to get out. So we now need to build a roadway to enable our service vehicles to get there, and similar to what we did before, we click on the grass road and we can only go to the taxiway, and then we can go across. Now, if I've done this nearly correctly, this almost meets up nicely to give us a nice little ring road there, so we'll connect that together like so. Right, so now that we've got all of those done, what we can do is connect our ramps to our services, otherwise they won't work. So again, you've got this kind little button that lets you connect to all the nearest facilities. So we'll go through and do that for each of the ramps. So now if we go back to our schedule, we've got some spare room down the bottom here. So we'll just turn them all to scheduled flights, and we can take on some contracts and see if we can't utilize this back end of the day and some of these gaps in here to see if we can get maybe 2 or 3 main contracts, further contracts with passengers ready. So across to the contracts window. So if you have a look here, again, we're going to squeeze them down. I think we can do a turnaround time within an hour quite comfortably. So this one's from 7 o'clock till 1500. You've got to be careful you don't end up with all morning and afternoon flights, otherwise you won't fit them in. So you want a good spread. So we'll start off by doing that, taking this one with an hour turnaround time. And if we carefully place these in here, we should be able to fit quite a few in and fill up this schedule. So I'll go ahead and do that now, and we'll be back when I've filled up the schedule. Alright, so what you can see here is that if we look at the contracts window, I was actually able to fit in 5. Even though this seems quite wasteful for the ramps, to get this spacing correct, you really do need a bit of extra ramp space so that you can kind of fill up some of these central areas a bit more easily, because you just have flights that overlap by 15 minutes that make it difficult, but for the cost of the ramp, it's well worth it. The other thing you'll see here is there's just some gaps that you could possibly fill, but when you've got 5 flights per contract, you're not quite able to utilise these all perfectly. But you can see right through the middle of the day, we've got pretty solid blocks now filling our maximum of 3. We've taken 5 more quite lucrative contracts at $100 a throw. So we're really filling up our airport now and making it work nicely. So last but not least, we want to make sure that all of these are serviced properly. So we will add vehicles as required if we need to, but at this stage we'll start with the 1 each for these, and we'll add vehicles as required. So I'll now fast forward. Sorry, just to touch on the research. The last of the research, we'll work our way through the rest of these personnel services. And then after that, we might go for bus operation, because as we're trying to set up as best as possible, our passenger service will utilise and start building or researching each of these upgrades around managing passengers. The only other one we might do is, even though it's really a long way out, we might even do this boost around our total workflow points, because as we start using workflow for contracts, then that will eat into our research, and so we don't want to lose too much of that, or we'll have to build a new office. So we'll perhaps do this new labour regulations, but I'll talk a bit more about research once we've done these initial upgrades. So let's get to the morning and see our passenger services working. So we've made it till morning, and our first passenger service should be arriving shortly. As you can see here on number 6, we've got our luggage trolley, we've got our bus, we've got our ramp services vehicle. Oh, sorry, I think this one over here is our bus. We've got our ramp services vehicle, and this is our fueling truck. So here I believe comes our first passenger plane. So our de Havilland DH50, and you can see it's got quite a lot more steps. So even though they're quite small numbers at the moment, having many more steps does mean that there is quite a bit more work to do for the ground crew. So we're just going to go through quickly and watch this and ensure that we can service this plane within the time frame that we've got. I'm sure this one will be fine, but as a second and third one come along, maybe we'll need to add more vehicles. So we'll just watch that now. So it looks like here, with the staggering of our different time slots, that the single bus and the single luggage cart seems to be coping quite well. So what we'll do now is we'll just move through the day and get all our passenger services going, and see how much money we make by this evening. So we've run into a little bit of a problem here, where with our extra flights we've actually run out of fuel. And you can see here, if we'd been watching the graph, we would have been able to see that at around 10 o'clock that's going to happen. So what I'm going to do is put in an extra contract for 9 o'clock, and I'm going to put an extra contract in for 1500, and I'll just have to do some ad hoc purchasing of fuel to get us across to 12 o'clock. So I'll do that now. As you can see, we've now gotten towards the end of the day, and with such a chockers schedule, we've still got quite a queue of planes ready to leave. However, even with running a bit low on fuel, so just to show you how much fuel we chewed through, I've had to set up some extra contracts to make sure that we actually have enough, and I did have to spot buy some fuel on the way through just to make it through. But yes, we're going through, what's this, 10, 20, 30, 40 to 45,000 litres of fuel a day, so quite a lot there. So I had to fix that up, and even with a bit of late servicing, we still made a very tidy profit. So the passenger services are much more lucrative. On the research side, we're almost finished researching toolkits. We've got bus driver training, we've finished out all these personnel services. I haven't really gotten down this path for bus operation, which will give us a better bus, stairway mounting, or the Willys dispatch tractor to improve our luggage services. So haven't gotten to that, nor yet to the new labour regulations to again improve our workflow boost another 15%. So I will keep working on them as we get to night time. But let's get to midnight and see what the daily report says from our first day of passenger services. And having a look at our daily report now for our first day of full passenger services mixed with our cargo. If we have a look here, you can see we've made an enormous amount of money compared to running just cargo services. So 43,600 odd in revenue, and even with some construction, we've nearly doubled our money. So our profits nearly $20,000. So really lucrative and important to enable us to move into the next stage, where we're going to start building tarmac and tarmac runways, which become quite expensive. One thing that hasn't happened yet was we haven't actually used our Aero Meals facility. So none of the contracts we had actually had a catering service requirement on it. So I'm wondering if that actually should come with the tarmac. So perhaps I've built that a little bit early. But as you can see, the contracts we've got running are quite lucrative, and we've now got a lot more options, including an additional airline. So look, that might be a good place to stop the episode. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this has given you a further insight into Skyhaven and how to set up your passenger services efficiently. On our next episode, we'll look at expanding those passenger services and getting rid of the cargo only services, and then starting to make this into a tarmac airport where we can take heavier aircraft with bigger loads. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in episode 3.